Well, good afternoon on this Friday, October 11th. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. This is an update for the All Hazards Consortium sensitive information sharing environment so we can share information freely across private sector organizations such as communications, food, fuel, utility companies, and organizations within state emergency operations centers led by private sector liaisons who communicate with the private sector. Well, I have good news weather-wise. Hurricane Milton is gone, is no more, is out in the Atlantic Ocean, and is not even a tropical system anymore. You can't even really find it unless you search for it in satellite imagery. Okay, I can go in a little bit further. Let's go in and I'll search for it and point it out. Here is the remnants of Milton right here, just a low-level circulation. And you can see some big storms there on the northern side of it. Look, it still has some of the characteristics that when it crossed Florida, it made landfall in Siesta Key, south of Tampa. And remember, all the heavy rains were to the north. Well, look, it still has that structure. Here's the center of the storm. Let me try to zoom in here a little bit so we can just see what it looks like. Here's the center of this low-level circulation. But storms are still to the north. That's an extratropical system. And while we're out here in the ocean, I'll just slide over here a little bit. This little swirl is Tropical Storm Leslie. And Leslie is forecast and continues. Look, see it moving to the north there? And see the spin. There's the center roughly. Moving to the north. That means it's not moving to the west to impact the United States. So we don't expect any impacts whatsoever from Tropical Storm Leslie. Now, because Milton is out here, it's no longer a named storm, but the remnants of Milton are out here in the Atlantic. It has a broad circulation, though. You see these clouds? These are low-level clouds, stratocumulus clouds. They're coming down from the northeast to the southwest. So the wind is still blowing onshore here in Florida. So the waves are still dangerous. Lots of rip currents up and down the Florida coastline, Georgia, South Carolina. So use extra caution if anybody is headed out to any of the beaches in unaffected parts of Florida today. And you can see that there are still some clouds and showers that are popping up in certain areas. There's a lot of damage surveys going on as well for some of the storms that have been going on. As a matter of fact, let me give you just a little update on the response operations for Hurricane Helene. You can see this whole area along the East Coast is very clear. No clouds at all. Big, sprawling, high pressure. Look, even as these clouds in Arkansas try to move east, they dissipate, they evaporate because the air is so dry. And that's even extending down into the northern Gulf of Mexico, into parts of Florida. Some moisture is intruding here from the northeasterly flow because we have a high pressure here and the remnants of Helene exiting. That's opening the doors for some of this northeast streaming of clouds. But they're not big rain clouds, they're not big storm clouds or anything like that. But the recovery operations still continue in western North Carolina. That will happen for a long time. And also in eastern Tennessee, also western South Carolina and Georgia. A lot of the power has been restored in hard-hit Georgia as well from Helene, and also in the Big Bend area. Power has been restored to those places that can take power. If they were destroyed enough where they have to be rebuilt, they're removed from the power outage count because they have to be rebuilt as structures. So what I'd like to do is show you the power out. The crews have made tremendous progress already in Florida from the power outages from Milton. Look at this. We're down to 2,355,000 people without power. There are the highlighted counties there. So if you can identify your county, you can see as the power gets restored, they sort of change color a little bit, going from orange to yellow to green, and then most of the power is restored. Had a lot of structures that were totally destroyed on the coastline, but this is good news. We have more than 50,000 workers from at least 42 states. If you see power companies that are restoring power in Florida, and they may have license plates from Wyoming or Colorado or Maine or Pennsylvania or California. This was one of the largest mutual assistance movements in the history of the electric sector to respond to Hurricane Helene. And then many of those organizations came down to Florida to stage outside of the danger zone so they could get in and start restoring power. So look at this at the bottom in yellow. Power has been restored to 1,018,771 meters. That's customers, and they're making great progress. So more than 1 million have been restored. I know it's always frustrating to not have your power restored, but what these linemen have to go through is a whole damage assessment. They have to determine if there's damage to the transmission lines. They're the really big ones that you see going over highways or up through real big cuts where there are no trees. They're the high tension wires out there, or the distribution lines. The distribution lines are the ones that go from electric substations and those transmission lines to the customers. That's to the households, to the businesses. They're the utility poles that you see in the streets. So there was a lot of damage done to those as well. So thank a utility worker and thank a lineman because they are working day and night, 24/7, to get power restored. And I just wanted to show you that we do have damage assessments going on in parts of Florida where tornadoes have hit, and some damage has been significant. This particular one in Palm Beach Gardens, Publix, was hit by a tornado. That's going to take a while to come back online, but just lots and lots of pictures of tornadoes out there. Tornado warnings, the number of tornado warnings issued by the National Weather Service set a record for Hurricane Milton in one day, or by Hurricane Milton in one day for the National Weather Service. By the way, we are tied into the National Weather Service's database, and we can see the damage surveys that they are logging basically live when they put it into their system. These are just some of the tornadoes and the damage paths, but you can see they are coming in. These are all tornadoes from Wednesday when that strong spiral band came through. So we'll keep monitoring that. Just wanted to show you that we are keeping track of those damage surveys. Now, I want to show you a little tropical outlook here because we have just a couple of things to talk about. This is GeoCollaborate, and I want to show you what's going on here in the United States. See, there's nothing highlighted in the Western Caribbean at all, in the Gulf of Mexico, or in the Atlantic that we have to worry about. Out here is Tropical Storm Leslie, and you see that path it's going to forecast to take, headed towards, it's going to dissipate, but on its way over to Spain. By the way, remember when Hurricane Kirk was out there and was heading towards France, it actually created floods in Paris, and one person was killed in Europe there from the remnants of Hurricane Kirk. But the only other area that the National Hurricane Center is concerned about is this one off the coast of Africa, and it has a higher chance of developing. Looks like it has a chance of about 40%, I think it is. Get in here a little bit closer. About 40% for developing into something in the Atlantic here. But the good news is it has a long way to go and is not even going to be moving towards us. So that's great. So if you've been hearing about anything like another hurricane coming, it's not true. There is nothing coming. And when we look at outlooks, we look out for the next 7 days. Because there are beyond 7 days, we kind of keep our eyes on certain things. And that's what I'd like to do. I'd just like to, the comments on the channel have been just so terrific. And I really appreciate all of your feedback. It means so much and helps us to put better graphics and products together to help explain things even more easily and simply, just so everybody can understand it. I mean, storms are stressful things, and when they threaten you, um, it seems like your mind goes a million different places and it's very hard to focus. So I'm going to answer some questions. I'm going to do one here today that we had on the channel. So the first question that I'd like to answer comes from the channel, and I really appreciate it. Why do people keep saying that there's another storm coming? Can you go over that? Only trust your channel. I really appreciate that question and the comments as well. And we've seen other questions coming in as well. Is there another one out there? I've received social media posts. Dave, is there another one coming? But there is not. And I want to show you what we look at when we're talking about out into the future. Meteorologists look at computer forecast models, weather prediction models. This particular one is one of them. It is the GFS, the Global Forecast System. You might hear it referred to on larger media organizations as the American model versus the European model. But this is what we look at when we look way out into the future. Now, the state of weather forecasting, called numerical weather prediction, is very accurate out to about 7 days. Climate models are accurate further out. They use different types of physics, and they don't look at all the minutia of weather forecast models. This particular one, this GFS model, goes out for a long time, 10 days. And so as I cycle through some of these time periods, for example, this time period, and it shows right here, it's initialized at 6Z, which is 2 o'clock in the morning. Z is Greenwich Mean Time, October 11th. And the forecast hour, you see that, is 42. So 42 hours out, it's pretty accurate. It's valid Saturday evening at about 8 o'clock. That's 0Z Sunday. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, the details here. But as we go forward in time, we just keep our eyes out for things that might develop. Now, 72 hours is about all I go out for trusting a model. And then I just keep my eyes on it and say, oh, hey, you know, we're watching something. And the models want to develop something. Like here's that wave coming off of Africa. It wants to develop that into a tropical system. And that's probably pretty accurate because the Hurricane Center is monitoring it, and they've said it's something to watch. But as we keep going forward in time and we get out here, look at this, hour 102. I call that fantasy land. It's way out in the future. This is not going to happen. At least we're pretty confident what's shown here is not going to happen. But it does tell us what the models are thinking, and it tells us to focus in on certain areas. So I'll continue this forecast here, and you see that by Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the morning, so that's next week, too far ahead, next week, it's developing a low pressure system here in the southwestern Caribbean. And so we're going to continue to monitor that. Well, what does it do with that low pressure system? It develops it. It sits there and spins, looks like it's a tropical system now. It develops into something that looks like a hurricane, and that is by 12Z Friday. Again, way too far out in the future. So as we take that and that goes inland into Nicaragua, those areas, the model then dissipates it, and it becomes a big rainstorm, and then it kind of just falls apart, and then a circulation does start to reform at hour 294. So what you might find in social media or people that just want clicks is they'll take this particular picture and they'll share it in social media, and they'll say another storm is coming, which puts the fear of God in everybody, first of all, and second, it's very it's unethical, and it's very unprofessional to do anything like that, when we're going to have so many more model runs between now and the next 5, 6, 7 days that we will refine our message as to what, if anything, looks like might be developing. And so we kind of cast this out right now, and we talk about what's going on over the next 7 days. And that is why in GeoCollaborate, we talk more about this, and that is the official Hurricane Center outlook for the next 7 days. And the coast is clear right now. And so if anything ever tries to develop, we will certainly let everybody know, because this update is for the sensitive information sharing environment and the Fleet Response Working Group. And as soon as the National Hurricane Center says we're going to be watching this, that's when we start to initiate video updates and talk about that as well. So I hope that helped answer the question. Please ease your minds. There's nothing out there about to hit. We know a lot of people are recovering and really trying to pick up the pieces of their lives. So are businesses, and so are organizations like grocery stores. They're all mobilizing. The Food Marketers Association helping to get trucks of food. Walmart, they're mobilizing many, many, many trucks to make sure that you have what you can get in your neighborhood after this disaster. So thank you for watching this update. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. Really appreciate the feedback on the channel and appreciate your interaction. Please stay safe. And if you have neighbors, please check on them. Thanks for watching.